So, after Cortez, the Spanish wanted to repeat that success as much as possible. These of expeditions went forward that the Spanish financed over the next few decades. Often these expeditions of exploration were led by these people who were called conquistadors or conquerors. So the conquistadors were, for the most part, looking for gold. Cortez had become extraordinarily wealthy as a result of his discovery of the Aztec civilization and his capture of all their wealth. And the Spanish government essentially said to conquistadors, if you conquered a particular area of the New World, you were entitled to a certain percentage of everything found there. So a lot of conquistadors wanted to copy Cortez's success. You had to pay a certain tax back to Spain of the riches that you acquired. Usually 20% went back to Spain, and then the people who conquered the area, though, who controlled it in the New World, those conquistadors, they were allowed to keep a lot of the rest of the wealth that they captured. So there were rumors that there were other civilizations like the Aztecs somewhere in the interior. And so a series of expeditions were sent out to try to discover these other civilizations that were just as wealthy, according to the rumors, as the Aztecs. So one of those expeditions was led by Ponce de Leon, who was a governor in what's now Puerto Rico, and he needed more Indian slaves since he had depopulated his island of Indians, and so he went to Florida in search of both a civilization that had gold and to round up natives for slaves. He wasn't really looking for a fountain of youth, which is the kind of popular myth surrounding De Leon. One of the first, or the first European that we know of to explore the Texas region was Alvar Nunez Cabeza de Vaca here, who was originally part of Panfilo de Narvaez's expedition. Narvaez died on the way, and de Vaca actually wandered around what's now Texas and Louisiana for years, surviving among the Indians by pretending to be a healer. He would go around and do the sign of the cross and pray over these natives who were sick, and some of them would recover, and he would tell the natives it had to do with his magic. Another one of these large-scale expeditions was the one led by Francisco Coronado. Coronado heard about what were called the seven cities of Cibola, which were these supposed cities of gold, and he ventured north in North America to try to find them. A number of natives told him that, oh, the cities of gold you're looking for, yes, we know they're around, and they're further north from here. Leave us and go further north and you'll find them. And so Coronado eventually became frustrated by his inability to find these wealthy civilizations. Instead, he just found a lot of semi-nomadic natives or natives that lived in permanent dwellings but were relatively poor, like the Pueblo. So Coronado eventually killed a lot of natives in retaliation for betrayals, according to him, among the Indians who told him they were riches somewhere further north and eastward in North America. And then he was actually tried by the Spanish government after he got back to Mexico for various crimes against the natives. So this is another image showing where some of these expeditions took place. These expeditions were very expensive, and the Spanish government was disappointed that they could not continue the kind of success that they had enjoyed in central Mexico and down in South America with the Inca Empire, which had been captured by a conquistador named Francisco Pizarro. The Spanish continued to send out expeditions, but never found the kind of wealth that those two large civilizations uh, offered them, or not offered, but those two large civilizations provided against their will. The system the Spanish set up was called the encomienda system. So, according to the Spanish laws, the encomienda system was supposed to be this reciprocal relationship where a conquistador would go capture an area, and then he would set up a hacienda, or a kind of a little capital in the city, usually a mansion or a manor, which was called by the Spanish a hacienda. And from this manor, the conquistador, who would now be called an encomendero, he would rule his encomienda, or his estate. And according to the laws, he was supposed to take care of everyone on the estate, meaning all the natives that already lived there. And in return for his military protection and access to European trade, in return for that, the natives were supposed to work for the encomendero, the Spanish ruler of the area, of a particular region. Usually that's not the way the system worked. According to the laws, the encomendero owned everything that was under the land and on the land, minus those taxes he had to pay directly to Spain. So the encomenderos usually took that very seriously, and since they felt that they owned, or that according to the laws they owned everything on the land and under the land, they would usually consider the people part of their estate and work them essentially like slaves. So if there was a silver mine found in an encomendero's territory, he would put all his natives that lived in their area, force them at the point of a gun or sword to work in those silver mines, and many natives died from the brutal treatment. The social stratification of the Spanish colonial system was very complex. So what I want you to do is take a look here at this image. This is an image that represents the kinds of racial distinctions that Spanish colonial society made in the 16th century. So the Spanish colonial system was highly stratified by racial distinctions and where you were born. At the top of the pyramid were the what were called peninsulares, or Spaniards that were born in Spain. Those people had the most powerful positions. They were the rulers and the viceroys and the largest encomenderos. They were only about 3 to 5% of the population, but they held all the power pretty much. Below them were what were called criollos, or Creoles. They were Spaniards that were born in the New World, and so they were descendants of Peninsulares, and they were full-blood Spanish, but they were not able to hold those highest and most important positions in the colonies because they were not born in Spain. But they felt they should be able to have those positions because they saw themselves just as European, even though they were born in the New World. So there was a lot of animosity between those criollos and the peninsulares. Below the criollos were people called mestizos, who were people of mixed Spanish and native ancestry. They could not hold really any ruling governmental positions and were limited to what jobs they could have. And below them were what were called mulattoes, who were mixed native and African. And below them were the natives and the slaves, who occupied the lowest rungs of society. So take a look at this image and then go to the discussion board and answer the question that I've left, which essentially is going to be this question here. What do these images say about European racial thought, or Spanish racial thought in particular, in the 16th century? Because there were all kinds of gradations in between mestizo and mulatto, like a castizo here, was slightly lower than a criollo, but slightly higher than a mestizo. There are all kinds of shades of gray in between, in between the major racial distinctions.